In my last Akon video, I showed you how he lowered his hairline with a hair transplant. But now, he's shaving it all off. Why this reversal? Was the transplant unsuccessful, or is this just an aesthetic choice? In this video, I'll break down what's changed, what this tells us about how long hair transplants last, and why Akon might be doing it. Just to recap, in 2020 is when we saw his hairline at this lower position. And just a reminder of the horizontal third measurements that I mentioned in my last video, with the upper third being about 5 centimeters in height, the middle third about 6 centimeters, and the lower third clocking in at about 7.3 centimeters, highlighting that his upper horizontal third became his shortest segment. And through September of 2024, Akon maintained this lower hairline position. However, in November of 2024 is when we started to see him with a shaved head, and a hairline that sometimes seems to start higher than where his hair was transplanted to. Like in this frontal image of Akon in November of 2024, when you first look at him just straight on, you see a hairline even with this short hair format, but you see it kind of higher up, like almost over that curvature of his forehead. You don't really see it in this kind of lower position. And that's something that we'll discuss in more detail shortly. And in 2025, we can still see the demarcation of the transplanted hairline, but with seemingly a separation from his original hairline. And you can see that quite clearly in this frontal image from July. And during a podcast in November of 2024, Akon had the following to say about his reasons for shaving his head. Take a listen.
You shaved it all off.
Yeah, I got a new look now.
So what made you shave off? Because you went and got the procedure done just to shave it off.
Well, the thing is, I can always allow it to grow back.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it.
So for this run, you're like, I'm shaving the head.
Yeah, because, it's like, it's a lot of maintenance keeping the waves going and all that.
Yeah, and you also look like, you look like Trouble Akon right now.
Yeah, I look a little bit younger with it. They say I look a lot younger with it, but it feels better too, because especially around the summertime when it was super hot. I think when it gets colder, I might, let some more hair grow or whatever the case may be.
So Akon seems to have shaved his head because he found it to be a challenging upkeep with the longer hair. He also seemed to be more comfortable in hotter weather with that shorter hairstyle. And he says he just feels younger with that bald look. So this brings us to the following point, that even after a successful hair transplant, some men still decide to shave it all off. Why? Well, here are some of the most common reasons. Well, there could be continued hair thinning and a mismatch between the transplanted hair and the original hair in that area. Remember that a transplant does not stop genetic hair loss. And if surrounding native hair continues to thin and recede, it can leave islands of transplanted hair that doesn't quite look that natural. And shaving gives the ability to restore some degree of uniformity, to avoid native hair thinning, and to even strengthen some of your transplanted hair, a portion of which could still be DHT sensitive with FUE technique. It's important to be on medical therapy for proper long-term maintenance. And one of the most common ways for guys to prevent progressive hair loss is with the use of finasteride. And that's something that we talk about at length on my channel, and we have it available at feelconfident.com for a very affordable price and for a lot of convenience in that it gets shipped to your home. So if you're interested in learning more about finasteride, make sure to check out feelconfident.com, the RX section. And part of what might lead to some of the styling work for Akon and what he found to be maybe a bit onerous was that there is this demarcation zone between where his hair was transplanted and his original hairline. And that might necessitate some degree of camouflage with something like hair fibers in order to better sync those two areas. Another reason why someone might shave their head after a hair transplant is because they might feel that their hairline just doesn't look natural. Hairlines that are placed too low and too straight can sometimes draw some degree of ridicule, and they might look out of place as someone ages. Shaving removes that focal point entirely. Another reason for wanting to shave one's head is, of course, maintenance fatigue. Keeping transplanted hair styled, waved, or blended requires constant upkeep, whereas shaving offers a set it and forget it lifestyle. Getting frequent haircuts and styling products all add up in cost. Another reason is that it could be an aesthetic preference. Some people feel more confident with the bald look. And sometimes they realize that after they already got a hair transplant. And some people actually come to the office and they've never had their head shaved. So when we shave it for a hair transplant, they see themselves for the first time with no hair. And some actually feel that it doesn't look too bad. So some will continue to shave their head even after a hair transplant. It can even read as intentional and stylish. Think Vin Diesel, The Rock, Jeff Bezos, Gary Linkov. Another reason, and Akon alluded to this, is seasonal and lifestyle comfort. It might be easier in hotter climates or if someone's a heavy performer. For example, athletes who sweat a lot might find it easier to do their sport with a shaved head. And some men might grow their hair back in the cooler seasons, but they shave their head in the summer. Another reason for shaving one's head after a hair transplant is dissatisfaction with the surgical result. There could be unnatural angles, pluggy grafts, or scarring that might push someone to shave their head permanently. Some people rather shave their head and just get some scalp micropigmentation to cover up some of the results that might be unappealing with the hair grown out longer. Another reason for shaving one's head after a hair transplant is just a psychological reset. After years of worrying about one's hair, getting surgery, using all types of products, sometimes it feels liberating and almost like you're taking control back by shaving it all off. It's a way to essentially stop this cycle of caring so much about one's hair and to just embrace simplicity. Another potential reason that some people decide to shave their head after a hair transplant is the development of some sort of medical condition related to their hair. For example, it could be alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune type of condition where the body attacks its own hair follicles, and that's what I personally have. And that condition can actually affect one's transplanted hair as well. For me, for example, I have no donor hair to give because the condition has not just impacted this whole central DHT sensitive zone, but really almost all of the hair on the head. So like for example, if I were 30 years old and had some signs of androgenetic alopecia, which I did not have, but if I had that at that time and let's say I went for a hair transplant in my early 30s and then later when I was about 35 I developed alopecia areata universalis, well that would have knocked out all the hair, the transplanted hair and whatever other remaining hair that I would have had, and in which case I would have been, bald but having had a transplant in the past, right? So that wasn't my situation because I had no signs of androgenetic loss, but I'm just using this as a hypothetical example. Another condition that can pop up after a hair transplant and can really wipe out a lot of the hair on the scalp is lichen planopilaris, or LPP. This is a scarring alopecia that can destroy both the transplanted hair and the native hair as well. These conditions can leave like patchy areas of hair that might look better if it's just all shaved down. So Akon actually reflects a larger reality that many hair transplant patients face. Even with a successful transplant, many patients decide to later shave their head, even if it's a temporary solution. Akon's case reminds us that hair restoration is all about flexibility, the ability to grow it back or to shave it depending on what feels right. And a good hair transplant performed properly gives you that flexibility.